Hi, we're here today with Valerie Brown. She's the author of the Gumbalie Goop. Hi, how are you, Valerie?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing great. Let's kick it off and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I am a retired reading teacher. I taught reading for 35 years, 25 years in one school district. That was the last 25 years. And I retired in June of 2022. And I've been enjoying it. And then about a year into my retirement, I got the book published. I submitted the manuscript and got the ball rolling. But I love animals, and everybody who knows me knows I love cats. I love all animals. People know that about me too. But I especially love cats. I've had them all my life, and my husband and I rescued the last four cats we've had. They've all been rescues. Actually, the last, mm, yeah, maybe five. And so I rescue cats. I love animals, and in my free time, I also like to read, of course, writing, antiquing, craft shows, things like that. In my retirement, I never liked to cook. I married a man who cooked for a living, and everybody said I was the luckiest person because I had a husband who would make dinners and make everything. And I considered myself blessed because I did not like cooking. I did like baking, so I did still bake. And now, since I have retired, I sort of got into cooking a little bit, and helping my husband not to have to carry the heavy load of doing all the cooking all the time. I only do easy things, but so kind of have that now in my little list of hobbies is cooking and baking.
Definitely a lot to keep you busy in retirement.
Yeah. The first few months, I didn't really want to do much of anything. I commuted to
Understandable after
school.
35 years with children.
Right. Yeah. And um, the, all my 35 years, I always commuted. My first 10 years, I was teaching in Philadelphia, not the Philadelphia school district, but schools in Philadelphia. And I lived in far enough away suburb that I had to travel about 25 minutes. And then I moved to New Jersey. I currently live in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. And then I had to commute over the bridge. And then when I got my school district job, Washington Township School District in New Jersey, I had to commute a very long way up and back. So when I retired, I didn't want to drive. I didn't want to move.
It
But
was time to
then
relax for
it
sure.
was time to, yeah. But then I said, I think I want to do something with this story I wrote,
So tell us about this story, the Gumbalie Goop. What's it about?
the Gumbalie Goop. Well, it's about a wizard. His name is Winslow, and he's very hard on himself. He's very kind, and he always wants to help people, and he loves children. And whenever he performs magic, his spells never turn out quite right. And despite that, everybody's always happy with, even though it wasn't what he wanted, whatever turned out still made children happy, it made animals happy, it's set in a medieval village, that kind of setting. Back in those days, I figured for a wizard like Merlin the wizard. Uh, and the villagers were happy, but he always felt like a failure. He was very hard on himself, and he only saw what went wrong instead of seeing the beauty of what went right. And then, because he's so kind and he did love children, when a little girl in the village becomes ill and she has a sad disease, and that means that unless the only way to cure her is to make her laugh, and nobody can make her laugh. Everybody tries. They have clowns and jesters come out, and she's getting weaker and weaker and weaker. Uh, well, Winslow had given up magic because he was so tired of flopping, and he felt like a failure, and that's a common theme through the book, that he feels like a failure. And then finally, he doesn't want to perform magic anymore because he doesn't want to flop at it. So, but when he heard of the little girl's illness, her name's Chloe, and he knew he wanted to go see her and try to help. So he asked her, "What can I do to help you?" And she asks for him. She said she wants a cat, a cat to play with. So, of course, my love of cats come into it. My inspiration was actually my childhood cat, who was the original Gumbalie Goop. We'll get into that maybe, but so the character, so Winslow wants to create a beautiful white fluffy cat. He tells her, uh, I will create this for you. So he does an incantation, and he does his very best, and a big puff of gray smoke comes. And when the smoke clears, there is not standing a beautiful white fluffy cat, but a Gumbalie Goop. And the description is it's black with orange splotches, and it has a beige nose with black speckles, and it has oversized ears. And when people look at that, and it said it's really didn't create a cat, he created a Gumbalie Goop. And everybody who sees a Gumbalie Goop says, "What is that?" They're not even sure it is a cat. And Winslow felt like he's a complete failure yet again, and he bends down to take the cat away. But Chloe says, "Wait, I would like to hear the cat meow. Please bring her to me." So Winslow places the Gumbalie Goop on the little girl's bed, and my cat Gabby, again, who was the whole inspiration, this is my childhood cat, who people would always make fun of and say, "What is that? Is that a cat?" And that's why the Gumbalie Goop is, that's why in the story the people say the same thing. So the cat opens its mouth, and instead of meowing, this is truly what my cat did. And the kids do enjoy this when they hear it. The cat says, "Mac." And Winslow cringes and thinks, "I am a complete failure. I couldn't even get the meow right." And then something wonderful happens, and Chloe smiles. And then the Gumbalie Goop again lets out this loud "Mac." And then she begins to laugh with delight. And that's what's her cure, was to laugh. So everybody cries out with joy, and thanks Winslow for his wonderful wizardry, his wonderful work. And Winslow at the end finally realizes, he says, "I am a success." He finally got his success. But again, it wasn't something that turned out the way he wanted. So the theme basically is that there is beauty in imperfection, and to always look for the silver lining, and not to be so hard on yourself. If something doesn't turn out exactly, there's still probably something very beautiful still about it.
I love that. So your cat was the inspiration for the cat in the story, but what about the story as a whole? The story of the wizard and him not feeling like a success, and these lessons that are learned. Like, what kind of inspired you to write about all of that?
Well, the story has a long history. I actually wrote this story when I was in graduate school, and that was a long time ago. And it was for creative writing. It was just a creative writing course, something kind of to lighten up the load of graduate work. And I enjoyed that class very much. And we were just free to write whatever we wanted. So I don't know, I can show you. So this is it might be very hard to see it on it. This is an old picture of my cat Gabby. That was her real name, but I nicknamed her the Gumbalie Goop. And don't ask me, I come up with very strange nicknames for all my pets, and G for Gabby. And then she was just sort of a mishmash of stuff, colors, and her Mac sound. And I just called her Gumbalie Goop, and it stuck. And then I had this wizard candle. See? And I often had, and I don't ask me why I would name a candle, but I called it Winslow, which is the name of the character in my story.
It's so lifelike looking. I mean, you
Yeah.
gotta name him. Look at
And
him.
they were together on a shelf. And I guess it just kind of stuck in my head that those should be
You
my
never know when you'll be inspired, right?
right. But I truly wanted to write something about my cat Gabby. I loved her very much, as I love all my animals, but she was just so unique. And the way people would say that she was like, what is that? Or she's ugly. And some people, they either said she was beautiful, which was very rare, or they said she was ugly. And, but I saw the beauty in her. And when she meowed, it was a Mac, and she always made people laugh. So a, it was a creative writing course, and I just decided to write about this Gumbalie Goop, because that's what I call Gabby, that was an imperfect cat that made people laugh. And I thought of the wizard, and I thought, well, he'll be a wizard that tries to create things and fails. And then I've centered the story, built up the story with all his failures. And then the prime failure, according to Winslow, was the Gumbalie Goop. That was the last straw. He was going to take it away because he's failing at trying to cure this little girl. Then he learns, now she enjoyed it so much he did cure her because she laughed. So as far as being inspired, I don't, just the characters and just wanting to write about how my cat made people laugh, and I incorporated the wizard, and it just flowed out. I was going to write just a short little 1-page type of thing, and it just kept coming out, and then next thing you know, I'm writing a complete story. And yeah, so that's how it started, with just a story for a writing class in graduate school.
And then what was the final push for you to decide to get it published?
Well, again, a little bit of a history there. My mom, she loved this story, and she said, you should get this published. And so naively, I was very young. I was about 28 years old, and we didn't know what to do. So I just roughly sent it off to some company, publishing company in New York, and no agent, no cover letter, nothing. And of course, it got promptly rejected. And then I felt better that I heard Stephen King was rejected about 27 times. So, but I never went and did anything with it. I started to get busy in my teaching career, and it just got pushed by the wayside, but I never forgot about it. And then years later, I took a writing correspondence course, and it was to help with getting your stories published. And it was very, very valuable to me. I submitted the Gumbalie Goop, and the instructor helped me polish it up. I got some great advice and a way to make it sound better and revise it. And it came out to be a better story. And in the end, the whole premise of that was to get it published for a children's magazine. And I decided I really did not want to do that. I almost did, but I thought, no, magazines, they get read and they get thrown away. I mean, really, when you think not many people hold on to their magazines. So the thought of my story getting thrown out in the trash, and I'm just like, it just meant a lot to me. And I said, well, I got a lot of good, valuable instruction, revisions, and I'm just going to hold on to this story. So years and years go by, and then I got the school district job, and then I was extremely into my teaching career. And I didn't forget about the story, but I didn't have time to do anything with it. But I never forgot. A few years before I retired, I said, when I retire, maybe I'll look into it then. And then, the things work in mysterious ways. A few years before I retired, we had a school newsletter, and there was a school newsletter about a teacher, an elementary teacher, this man in another school that had a book published. And I was like, oh, that's so terrific. And it was all this big write up about him. And I thought, you know what, if he can do it, I can do it. And I it sort of ignited that inspiration again. And I did not forget the name. I took notes of the name of his publishing company and tucked that away. And then again, years went by because I was busy with work. And so then finally, June of 2022 rolls around, and I was able to retire. But I didn't do much right away because I wanted to enjoy kind of being retired and not doing anything. And then it started to eat away at me that you promised yourself that you would try to do something with your Gumbalie Goop story. So I went back into my little file where I had written down the name of the publishing company, which it was Fulton Books. And I looked up Fulton Books and did a tiny little research about them, and they looked good to me. So, and I knew that that was the other teacher was published through them. So there I went. I retyped my story. I tried to polish it up even more, maybe tweak it a little bit. And I sent in my manuscript, and they accepted it. And next thing I know, I'm off and rolling and getting this in the process of getting a book published. And nobody was more shocked than I was.
Well, thank you so much for sharing about your book. I feel like this story has gone on a very long journey to get to where it is today.
Yes.
It finally published, great
Right.
characters, a great lesson. I really am looking forward to seeing how much kids love your book, The Gumbalie Goop.
Well, I will say can I say one more thing?
Of course.
So I was a teacher I was teaching when I was in graduate school, and I did test out my story. I had no pictures, no illustration. It was just a written story. And I did test it out on some of my reading students, because kids will be completely honest. If they don't like something, they will let you know. And 35 years of teaching reading, I knew when they did not like a story and when they did like a story. And this had no illustrations, so they would have to just listen and use their imaginations. And I will say that they absolutely loved it. And then I had them draw illustrations to see, were they really listening? Did they really get it? And they drew illustrations that were so perfect for the story. They drew the wizard, the Gumbalie Goop, all the scenery, things that I knew they were hanging on to every detail. And so that gave me the inspiration too, that I could do this, I could publish this. And just last night, or just yesterday, I went back to my school with my book. I have my book, The Gumbalie Goop, and I went back to my school where I taught for 25 years, and I read it to every grade level, first through fifth, in separate meetings. And from first through fifth, which is a nice little age range, every classroom did really enjoy it. And I wasn't like Winslow. I was afraid of flopping like Winslow. And it didn't flop at all with the kids. So it is a really charming book, and the kids really, really understood it. And even the first graders, which I was very surprised. So it has a long history, but my biggest happiness now is that it really is making kids laugh, and it is making kids learn the theme of you don't have to be perfect, and see the beauty in your imperfections, and always look for the silver lining.
I'm gonna have to read it with my 5-year-old. She would love something like that.
That would be wonderful, and I would love for you to let me know if she enjoyed it.
I will. Thank you so much for chatting with me today, Valerie. It was lovely to meet you and to hear about your book.
Okay, thank you as well. Bye-bye.